see if this works. I think it has. Let me just double check. It's the first time I'm streaming on this channel, so I'm hoping that it comes through okay. But as always with these things, you never know. You never know. There we go. I can see myself, so I'm pretty certain that we're all good. I think I'm just gonna tweet this out if I can. Having a pre-watch party for cool. I'm just going to post that. Like I said, it's the first stream I'm doing on this particular channel. So I expect things to be a little slow on the uptake. And then from there, hopefully, we'll start to be able to have a chat. And go from there. It's all the same as my other channel. I'm just making sure that I've got everything set up correctly, because like I say, normally on my other channel, everything's got set as default, so I don't have to worry about all that stuff. It's already set up. But yes, anyway, we're here to have a pre-watch party, as it were. I know a lot of people have watch parties. I'm obviously going to be watching the episode and reacting to it, so I'm not going to be doing a watch party, but I thought it'd be good to do a pre-watch party. Kind of like how you pre-drink before you go out on a night out, where we can just kind of talk about what we think is going to happen on the upcoming episode of The Acolyte. So we're on to episode number 5. And I think this is make or break. I think this is pretty much make or break for this episode. Hey, Metallic, how you doing? I think this is. I think for a lot of people who've kind of been on the fence, this episode will determine whether the show is going to be a success or whether it's dragged on a bit too long to get to a point where they really want to enjoy it and find some, enjoyment in it. I think that, it needs to be longer than last week. Once we do conclude the fight scenes, I think it needs to keep a fairly decent pace. And I'm hoping it doesn't end on another cliffhanger. I'm hoping that it gives us a natural conclusion to some of the questions that we've had so far in these first 4 episodes. And that's, of course, assuming that there is no flashback episode a la episode 3. Because, that would be, I think that'd be a killer, is if they did a Mandalorian, and they decided they were like, right, this episode's not actually going to continue on from last week, it's going to be something different because it's a flashback. That'd be a bit of a killer. Hey, Earl, how you doing? Have I been? I've been good. Yeah, busy with work this week, but doing good. Just enjoying the usual discourse. It's been a crazy 12 hours. I got locked out of my Twitter accounts for a repost that I did of someone, essentially telling me to hang myself. And that was the one that they found didn't break the rules, and that's why I was reposting it, because I was like, how is this not breaking the rules? And so, about 12 hours ago, I found out that my account had been restricted for that tweet, because apparently me reposting that is violence. So I just got access back about an hour ago, and I've seen that Star Wars Twitter has gone to hell. It's really gone to hell. But, that's a completely separate subject that I don't really want to get into. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm really waiting on, this next episode. So I think I'm going to do this each of the next few weeks. is, have a pre-watch party. The purpose of these is because I react to them and I don't have watch parties per se like some people do. I'll get in early. We'll have a little chat in the lead up to the episode, talk about what we think might happen, and anything else that we might want to talk about. Just, a short 45-minute, hour-long stream. And, that'll it'd be nice, I think. So who's going to die this episode? Again, if you didn't see the video that I put out yesterday about my theory that Soul is going to be the only one that survives of the Jedi, I reckon that's going to be the case. I think Soul is going to be the only person able to hold off the Acolyte. I'm going to call him the Acolyte because I'm assuming at this point that he is the Acolyte. And I think that Yord and Jecki, as much as it pains me to say, because I like those characters, I think they are goners. I'm hoping that they put up a good fight. Or at worst, they might get incapacitated. Well, at worst, at best, they might get incapacitated, and that's why, we don't see them in any other promotional material. Sol is definitely going to survive the episode. He's in more shots in the trailer, and not flashback shots like, his long hair. It really went to Drummond Road on Twitter today. Yeah, I came to that realization when I signed back in, and saw what was going on, who was involved, and I'll just say that I'm very glad that I don't get deeply involved in a lot of the stuff, not because I think it's ill-natured, but because you just can't trust people. I'm very hands-off when it comes to the online community, other than my own channel and, those of you who follow me, because you just don't know who you're talking to, It's taken me years and years to cultivate trust with people who I've come to know online. I'm less, able to trust people who just happen to be in the community. So, and as it turns out, normally it's justified. So, what about the Sith Acolyte? I can see Sol taking him out. There was a helmet on the ground image from the trailer. I don't think he's necessarily going to be taken out. I mean, yeah, Sol might fight him off, I think. My image is that by the time we get to the Acolyte and Sol fighting, the Acolyte's already going to have killed the rest of the Jedi. And so it is just the last two standing. I think that those moth creatures are going to play a part. I think that they will attack both the Acolyte and Sol, and that will drive them apart. And the Acolyte might bolt. He might run. And Sol might chase after him. Who knows? But yeah. You are indeed L. Very much so. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And RM4, I'm sure that's not the case. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Beauty and ugliness is in the eye of the beholder. So yeah, what do we think is going to happen? Firstly, how long do we think the episode's going to be? Does anyone here venture that the episode is going to have a runtime of over 40 minutes, not including credits? Because technically speaking, I think last week's episode is about 38 minutes long, but that was including credits. The week before, and I think the first 3 episodes ventured into 45-minute territory, but again, that's including the credits and the intros. So, I'm hoping, I just really want, I was watching House of the Dragon earlier today, and when you get to a point in the episode where you're like, my god, it feels like I've been watching this for an hour, and I'm really loving it, and I'm hoping that this doesn't end in a few minutes, and you check the timestamp, and it's like, you're only 40 minutes in, and there's another 25 to go, and you're like, yes. But then, the Acolyte's the complete opposite, or anything really that Disney has put out recently. It's kind of been like, oh, it only feels like I've been watching this for 10 minutes. Oh, it's only got 5 minutes left. What? I just want hour-long episodes. Is that too much to ask? You're trustworthy and unconventionally handsome. Well, who really wants to match up to convention? You have a beard, so people love me. That's why I've grown the beard back. Although I am noticing a couple of grey hairs here and there. which I've trimmed for the purposes of this video. You have the feeling it'll be almost 40 minutes long. I'd like that, at the very least, at the minimum, the bare minimum, 40 minutes. No way I'm feeling 34. 34, that's an act. Yeah, I mean, it's longer than last week. Not quite as long as the other weeks. I just feel like, we're at this point now where we're in the second half of the season. We've got an established story, but we've only got 4 episodes left. And I just feel like this show needs to take the initiative. It needs to take risks. And, I don't mind them being shorter if we're going to establish things. But I think that for the last 4, we really need to go all out and take our time with it. But I'm not expecting that because for some reason this appears to be the formula. Which, again, is not... It's not the reason why I think a lot of people have issues with the show. And again, I think the show is entertaining enough. I'm enjoying it. I'm not in love with it. I feel like there are some issues, but I'm able to kind of put them aside and enjoy it for what it is. I do think that the acting in some parts has been a bit ropey. The story itself probably doesn't get the best out of... the way that the episodes are structured probably doesn't serve the story too well in the way that a movie might. It's all to do with editing and pacing. Some stuff feels a bit out of place. And again, with the shorter episodes, I think that contributes a bit to that. So there definitely are issues with this show. Certainly nothing that says this is the worst thing to have ever been made. That's all bluster from the usual suspects, and certainly I think the majority of people who watch the show will say it's not terrible, it's not brilliant, it's pretty entertaining, and I'm interested, and I'll see where it goes. So had episodes 4 and 5, one episode essentially cut in half, and 4 was the shorter of the 2. That makes sense. I mean, if this is going to pick up straight away, then yeah, that would be 2 episodes split in half. They really need to just combine episodes. Yeah, I wouldn't even mind that. Even if we were to get 4 episodes that were like an hour and a half each, I think it would probably serve it better than 8 episodes that were 40 minutes long. Because at least then you're still keeping up and telling a story consistently. Bad when I wait all day for a 30-minute episode. Yeah, well, think about this. I'm staying up until 2 in the morning. I'll be up until about 4:30, 5 o'clock until the video is up on YouTube, and then I'll be up for work at 7. Wednesdays are my cranky day. But I do it because I enjoy it. I really do. But again, I just, like people have said, I would like for this to be something worth waiting up for and, give us a bit more, content. Not fantastic or mind-blowing, it's fine, which I agree. I think it's absolutely A-okay. If I was to give it a rating at the moment out of 10, I'd probably be around about 6.5, 7, But it's always difficult to judge a show until it's finished, because I imagine that with the way this show has been set up, a lot of the mystery, a lot of the things that people have been complaining about will be answered in the last 4 episodes. People, who seem to take a great deal of personal offense at the idea that the Sith could exist around this time and that the Jedi couldn't find out, who this is. So, hello, Zuko. I feel like, until they actually wait until all 8 episodes are out, if after 8 episodes there's still no logical explanation as to why the Jedi shouldn't suspect something dodgy is going on, that's fine, but these last 4 episodes, I think, is going to give us a fairly decent explanation as to the larger mindset of the Jedi Council, which we already know they're hiding it from the Council, so they're probably not even going to be aware of what's been going on. And I imagine Venestra might actually cover up the entire thing. I want short and action-packed or long and character well, but I don't need both at this point. My expectations are lower. Yeah, I always think of it as, Game of Thrones Season 6 was split into some very, very well-thought-out episodes. You had either the long character-focused, story-focused episodes and the slightly shorter battle episodes. that focused entirely on that one scene or that one battle. And, at that point, because you can't have fast-paced action throughout an hour, it's gonna tire people out. They're gonna lose concentration. So, if you're gonna have it short, sharp, to the point, that's fine. But if you're doing half an hour of story building and character building, it needs to be longer, because you need that extra time. I'd like to see more politics in the show, hopefully. Yeah, although we all know that people claim that the show is already full of politics, apparently. But the only politics I can see are the politics of the Jedi, like the internal politics of, we can't tell the Council because there's obviously a cover-up from what happened with May and Osha way back when, and that's the extent of any kind of politics right now. But like I say, I guess it depends on the long-term vision as well. If there are plans for this show to get a second season, and continues on long-term, then I absolutely don't mind them taking that slow burn to the story right now. But I'd like them to take a bit more time introducing the world, the characters. It's kind of like just have those introductory episodes, but they kind of jumped the gun and went straight into the meat of the story within the first episode. So yeah, generation which grew up online have a short attention span and need for immediate gratification. Not saying the show is outstanding, but patience, Daniel-san. Yes. I know that shows back in the day, they were serialized, and they were kind of, very rarely would you have a season-long story. I take Star Trek as a great example. Up until DS9, very rarely did you ever have a story that went beyond 2 or 3 episodes. Occasionally there would be stories that might tie into each other at different points in the season, but they wouldn't be intrinsically linked all the way through. You'd have 24 episodes, and the bulk of those were like individual stories that focused on individual characters. You might have the season finale, which is a double-parter that leaves you on a cliffhanger, or the mid-season double-parter, again. And I think that these days people wouldn't be able to survive on that. But again, going back to that point, episodes are 45 minutes, long. Pardon me. I'm drinking coffee, by the way, at 1 in the morning. I don't know how wise that is. And I'm also kind of debating whether I should just stay up all night rather than go to bed. Because I inevitably feel less tired at 5 a.m. Than I do at 7 a.m. having had 2 hours sleep. So I might just stay up all night. But I've got certain hopes for this episode. Obviously, like people have said, like you said, Earl, if this is a flashback episode, that's going to kill it dead for me right now. But yeah, I mean, I kind of want to know from you guys, who is surviving this? Because I can't think beyond what I've already stated in that last video. That I can't see a way out for Yord. I can't see a way out for Jackie. Certainly the red shirt. I was going to say red coats. Then that's the old British Navy red shirt Jedi. Who again they're just nameless. They're definitely not going to make it. So who do we think, and do we think anything else? Do we think that the Acolyte's going to be revealed this episode? Because I'm teetering back and forth. I think that one of the last 4 episodes is going to be another flashback. It's going to be, the stuff that we didn't get to see with May and Osha's family, the Coven and the Jedi. We find out why it was that the Jedi have covered this up, and what it was that they did that was so messed up that Torben had to go on a 10-year sabbatical from existence. You okay, buddy? You're awfully attentive. I've got the little the bird box up, and there's been a little shrew in the bird box, even though it's quite high up. There's been a little shrew in there, so he's been very excited because he's been watching the shrew take out the nuts from this bird box. If Yord survives, I'll have more eye candy. Although saying that, he's not been shirtless since that first episode. And I believe that, Yord's supremacy requires him to be shirtless. CGI is expensive, and that'll take away from any fight scenes or space scenes. I mean, what I will say about that is, if it's true about the budget of this show, the 180 million, which I don't think I've seen it confirmed anywhere, but that seems to be the general line everyone's going for, I do struggle to think about where that budget has gone so far. I know things get more expensive as time goes on, but 180 million, whilst not the most expensive Star Wars project, you know, you look at Andor and you can see where that money's been spent. Location shots, very elaborate, you know, graphics, you know, some very impressive cameos, likes of Andy Serkis. So you can kind of see where that budget might have gone. But, although saying that, they did film in Cleveland's Lancashire, which is still baffling to me, the idea that the exotic space beach was Lancashire, which is about an hour away from where I live and the greyest, dullest place you can imagine. But yeah, you know, I do wonder where the money's gone. It's not a terrible looking show. It's not like Volume Central, you know, like Kenobi and Ahsoka was. But it's still not quite what I'd consider fitting for the budget. But again, I'm not an expert, and I don't even know if that 180 million is the accurate figure. You'd like to see more wacky and dangerous creatures from Legends, like a Star Dragon. I agree. I think we should see more weird shit. You know, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's like, we need to expand, see some weird stuff. Mando Season 1 and 2 hit the perfect balance of each episode being something of a contained story whilst following a season-long plotline. Yes, good example. Mando Season 1 more than Season 2. You know, you had those occasional interconnecting points, you know, once, you know, Mando gets the child, he has that thread of wanting to keep him safe. But each episode is kind of self-contained up until those last two. Come on, buddy. I can't see the screen. You know, but they managed to pull it off really well. And again, you know, 8 episodes, a little bit longer than what we've gotten in the Acolyte, but satisfying because each one is contained. It doesn't necessarily end on a cliffhanger. You know, you're excited to see what happens next week, but you're not burning on the edge of your seat like, oh my god, you can't cut off there. Which is what I was feeling last week. Love DS9, my childhood. Yes, DS9 is my absolute favourite Star Trek. Show suggesting Darth, Flash, Smiley. I've heard so many names. Smilo Ren, which is a great one. I really like that. Darth Zippy. You know, for anyone who is from the UK and is old enough to remember Zippy from Rainbow, that's a great callback. He basically had a zip for a mouth. It was a horrifying show when you look back at it now. It's full of innuendo and all kinds of weirdness, but it was the 70s. You know, so... But I'm just wondering who it's going to be. I feel like, you know, him being Khmer is a bit too obvious. I always feel like Khmer is a red herring. And if he is, you know, the guy in the mask, he's not the master. I feel like the master is definitely someone else, and this person in the mask is the apprentice. They are the Acolyte. And we're just waiting for this reveal. Like, the last shot of the show is going to be like, if it's not Plagueis or Tenebris, it's going to be like some new Sith. Which, again, you know, I always think to myself, you know, even if they were to get Plagueis right, and he was this moon character, and, you know, I can imagine there'd still be an uproar on the online community, because it'll never be perfect. It'll never be the Plagueis that, you know, these people want, even if it's exactly as he was written in Legends. I'd rank the show 7 or 7.5 out of 10. Yes, I agree. Certainly, I do not think that in any world, you know, we'll refer to Rotten Tomatoes, like 14%, 13%. There's absolutely no way that is an accurate score. You know, it is obviously clearly review bombed. I think I read something about, on Rotten Tomatoes, The Acolyte has had more reviews in the first 4 episodes than the entirety of every other Star Wars live action show has had combined. And that should tell you it's not organic. But it is what it is. You know, I think sensible people will say that, you know, it's neither brilliant nor terrible. And if you think it is brilliant or terrible, obviously that's fine. Everyone likes something different. But I think, you know, there's always an averaging out of opinions, isn't there? It might be Basil. It might be, you know, that little dude. we've seen. I mean, he could be the antithesis to Yoda, a very small, strange creature that is, very. I imagine him with a little red lightsaber doing flips. My God, could you imagine that? Him and Yoda on screen flipping around all over the place. I think my brain would just not compute. And not because, I'd enjoy it. I'm very much anti-Yoda using lightsabers. And to be honest, Palpatine as well. I always felt like those scenes in the prequels were a bit hokey. No doubt great in the cinema at the time. I remember I was only 14, I think, when Attack of the Clones came out. And I was excited. Oh, Yoda, I've never seen him fight before. He pulls out a lightsaber and, you don't think about it at the time because you're quite young. And, obviously opinions change. But looking back on it now, I think it would be so much better if they just stared each other down, had a test of wills with the Force. And the same with Palpatine. It's like, I don't know. I just always felt like those flippy fights were not brilliant. But that's just my opinion again. Have I read the novel Shadow of the Sith with Luke and Lando that came out recently? It had a character who finds the Master contains the spirit of a long-dead Sith Master, which gives Sith powers. Yes, I have. I don't think this is the same mask. I think the artwork depicts, although it's got a very similar style, where it looks very homemade and broken. I don't necessarily think, because they're saying that's an ancient Sith, from many, many generations past. But that's a really good book. And I love the unconventional team up of Luke and Lando as well, because they're not characters that you necessarily would associate working together. Han and Lando, definitely, two peas in a pod, but Luke and Lando, that's a really interesting combination. His face isn't long enough, he doesn't have enough scars, his eyes aren't the exact same shape. Yeah, there'll always be a complaint, because the problem is that I don't think they would ever want to admit that Disney could do something right. Which is odd, because a lot of the people who seem to claim that Disney is killing Star Wars seem to really like a lot of Star Wars stuff that Disney has brought out. But each to their own. And I like I was saying, I put out a tweet earlier. I'm going to do my best to just ignore that side of the community now, and just kind of enjoy what we have. Just enjoy the little corner of Star Wars that we have, and go from there. If they were to make a show focusing on the dark side or a villain who's a dark side user, what would you like to see? I think, like, the most obvious for me, I'd like to see... This is always the issue, because in one part of my brain, I'm like, this would be great. And in the other part, I'm thinking to myself, how would they do this? Because I know... For example, one of the things I'm thinking of is the early rise of Kylo Ren. His stuff with the Knights of Ren, how Snoke first kind of trains him, his initial integration as the First Order. That would be great TV, but, obviously you can't get Adam Driver in to do it, because either it would cost a ton of CGI money to de-age him, or, you're going to have to get someone else in, and they're just not going to quite look right, which is probably not as much of an issue, but it's still, I know in my brain it would be like, oh, this is a bit weird. So I think animation would be great for that kind of a story, focusing on either the early years of Kylo Ren or Snoke. If I couldn't have those two, honestly, I would like to see us go back to a time we've not visited. And I'd be totally down for there to be a new original character for them to build up and, base the ancient Sith legends from. Because I feel like we are at a point now where we need to start getting a bit of consistency with the Sith history. Because, it is so threadbare. And because they are hidden away for so long, we need to get, our... stories in order. We need to make sure there's consistency there, because for all we know, someone else, and I know Dave Filoni is supposed to be in charge of making sure that continuity fits, but there is always the potential for stuff to slip through the net. So yeah, either Kylo Ren early on or something way back. That'd be pretty cool. Do I have suspicions on who this Smilo Ken might be? I am kind of hoping it's a brand new character who we've not met before. Again, it would be a little bit odd to say, well, why is it that they've got the mask? Why are they hiding their identity? But we don't always need someone that we know, to be behind the mask. So, obviously I think Camilla is the front runner, but I'm still of the mind that it's going to be someone else. And I've seen people say that, well, it could well be one of the, the other mother. I forget her name, the Zabrak mother. And I don't necessarily think that's her. I think we could probably say with a fair amount of certainty that this Acolyte character is a male, or at least they've got a masculine build. But we might be wrong, because again, the helmet can cover up a lot of stuff. As long as it makes sense as to who they are, and we get properly informed if we don't know them, then I don't mind. I'd like to see the Darth Bane book trilogy. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Really just show I've lost a lot of weight. See on your face, neck, and shoulders. Thank you. I've plateaued a little bit. I'm kind of hovering around 305 to 310 at the moment. I'm bouncing back and forward, but I'm going back onto keto this week, so I'm hoping that any water weight that I've kind of accumulated recently, because I'm hydrating a lot better now than I used to, because I'm able to drink a bit more consistently, and if it being summer, I'm able to drink, I'm more encouraged to drink cold drinks, which, tend to be in pint form, rather than a mug of coffee, which, to be honest, I very often don't finish in the winter months because it's nice and warm. So I am hydrating a lot better. But it's a slow and steady race. I'm not in a rush. I definitely feel a lot better. I'm like, this is a new t-shirt. This is like 2 sizes smaller than what I would have bought previously, so I'm happy with that, and long may it continue. I've grown the beard back because I thought I'll have a look and see how it looks now on a slightly slimmer frame. I like it. I just don't like the little bits of grey that are showing up that you can't see because I've trimmed it expertly. But it is definitely, my age is going to start showing soon. Was my comment on other Star Wars reaction channels and their overtake on the Acolyte. It's pretty much as it's always been. People will grift. People will jump on the train to hate because it will get them views. It will. And you know what? I've experienced it myself. I know how easy it is to fall into that pattern of, oh my god, that video I made is really popular. I'm going to make more like that. Because when I made my review on The Last Jedi, and it to this day remains the most popular video on my other channel. I got 350,000 views. And it was because, obviously I wasn't happy. And, obviously to this day I still don't like the film, but I don't hate it. I certainly don't disparage it constantly. It is what it is. I appreciate it certainly more than I used to, because now I can see that it was trying to do something different. I don't think it was executed very well, but I can appreciate it for what it is. But when I made that video and I saw those views and those subscriptions coming in, there was that little part of my brain that was like, yeah, keep this up, keep going. And then when I made the next one, which was like my second watching, and it did the same again, it was like 200,000 views. I was like, oh, I'm on something here, but I just couldn't keep that up. I couldn't keep hollering on about the same topic. Eventually people become bored of that one particular thing. So you either need to move on and cover new stuff, which for me, I tried to do, but I couldn't put a negative spin on it, because honestly, it just went back to being like, okay, well, firstly, I'm not a Star Wars focused channel. I'm going to watch other stuff. But also, it's kind of like, I just don't like swamping in negativity constantly, even if it gets a lot of views. And one of the refreshing things about this channel is that I found that videos simply well made, and they can be short, because a lot of my videos have been quite short. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, as long as it's presented well, and a lot of the theory videos that I've done have done really well. People will come and watch. The video I put out yesterday, it's got like 3,500 views in 24 hours, which for a channel with less than 1,000 subs is a lot. And, you know, I think that I'd be very happy for that to continue, because it's not something that I have to manipulate to get those views in. I don't have to clickbait. I don't have to rage bait. I don't have to scream and talk about how I hate this and hate that. But some people do, because it rewards itself. You know, if you put out these constant videos of all this rage bait, people will come and watch it because that's human nature. And I was talking about a few days ago how it's quite sad to see young people getting caught up in this web of, you know, style of video, the toxic negativity. And I came across, well, I didn't come across, someone tagged me. And it was a YouTube channel, fairly new, run by, you know, what was probably a 12, 13-year-old teenager. And stylized very much like Star Wars Theory or Nerdrotic, you know, or any of the kind of usual geeks and gamers, you know, those kinds of, the same type of thumbnail, the same Star Wars is over, Kathleen Kennedy killed Star Wars, the same style. And you can see that over the last month, those kinds of videos have, like, really started to boost the popularity of the channel. And it ties in with a lot of the usual kind of right-wing buzzwords, you know, the anti-woke stuff, you know, calling people shills, you know, and it's, you know, it's clear this kid is a huge Star Wars Theory fan. You know, if you look back on the videos praising him, you know, he's been in his streams, he's played games of him, you know, this is why it's important that people like that realize they have a responsibility, because this kid has now gone in and made a like-for-like channel and is now basking in the growth that is, you know, and the gratification that is given by that small toxic element of the community. And it is an echo chamber. You know, you go in and you look at the comments and they're all spouting the same nonsensical things that you see. Lesbian space witches. You know, the only people who say lesbian space witches are the people who have issues, you know, with that kind of stuff. So it is sad. And you know, I think that these people have a big responsibility, you know, for that. And don't get me wrong, there's toxicity on every side. This week, these last few days have been terrible for it. I've seen people who should know better be toxic. And I just think it's not acceptable in any form. You know, no one should ever threaten someone, no matter who they are. But, you know, some people will see themselves as being morally right in doing that just because, you know, the person that they are attacking has a fan base that does it themselves. You know, so it is a shame. And we're starting to see the, you know, sort of the results of years of this cultivating a toxically negative segment of the audience now starting to explode. And the best thing to do, ignore them. Let them have their, you know, freakouts. Let them shout into the ether that is the internet. We can just move on, continue to you know, enjoy what we enjoy, and just ignore them as best we can, because they are a minority. They are a vocal minority. But it's like I posted on Twitter. I said most people are not terminally online. They don't necessarily care about all this stuff. They just enjoy Star Wars. And if they don't watch it. They don't comment. That's it. So yeah. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. Hello, Dion. How you doing? How are things over there in Alabama? Hope you've been well. What's my theory about the sin the Jedi committed on Brendok? I think that they were going in to try and separate May and Osha. I think that maybe Indira ordered them to go in and take the children, and there was some pushback. Certainly, I think from Torben and maybe Sol, but they reluctantly agreed to take part. Either that, or it could be, I mean, we saw Torben get mind controlled. It could even be that the Zabrak witch, again, I forget her name, Mother whatever it might have been, I think she could have even tried to mind control one of them and force them to do something that looked like the Jedi were provoking them. And that's ended up, you know, I don't know. I think that obviously the people the Coven weren't killed by lightsabers, but they focused heavily on that Bunta tree at the end. So I don't know if they were poisoned, but how it might be. But yeah, there's 100% something more to it. But I just don't know how innocent the Jedi were. I definitely don't think Soul felt good about it. I don't think that he was the one to suggest it. I think Indira was probably the leading force if, it was their decision. Maybe something got mixed up. Who knows? That's why I'm so interested, because I can't really pin it down. I'm normally quite good at, pinpointing, theories and, seeing, the forest for the trees, because, unfortunately a lot of common storytelling these days is predictable. But this isn't. This is actually quite intriguing because I don't know where it's going. And that's why I think the show is better than what a lot of people give it credit for. Sure, it could be presented better, it could be paced better, it could be acted a little better, but the mystery behind it, very intriguing. The identity has already been leaked because an idiot crew member recorded stuff and posted it online. I mean, again, I've not seen all that stuff. I to be honest, I went into this not even having looked at anything other than the trailers, which, because there was a ton of TV clips in the lead up, and I thought I'm not looking at that because I don't want to get spoiled for anything. You're hydrating with pints. Well, I meant pints of soft drinks, juices and things like that. Not pints of beer, because that will very quickly, cause problems. Don't think Star Wars theory has grown substantially in a few years. Most of his subscribers are probably passives. Yeah, and I think that's why, you look at him and he is stagnated. He started to lose subscribers. His view count is stagnant. I think it's not just an issue with him. I think it's an issue with the community in general. I think that the same with reactions. The market is getting saturated. People are not as interested as they used to be. And people get desperate. People whose livelihoods depend on this get desperate. And so when they see something that they can utilize to really garner an audience and increase their views, they'll do it. Which is why, you will see whenever these shows come on, there'll be a whole burst of videos, and, that they'll really capitalize. And for a few weeks afterwards as well, you'll see videos talking about the same thing over and over, just painted in a million different ways. Because they'll be chasing that same audience. But then in 2 months' time, when we have a lull, in shows, until Skeleton Crew comes along, you'll see the views will drop right down. Until there's something to rage bait about, the views will drop. And then they'll come back up when you can rage bait about the next thing, which will be, unless there's something seriously wrong with Outlaws, it'll be Skeleton Crew next. That'll be the rage bait thing next. And I'm trying to predict what they're going to have an issue with Skeleton Crew. I mean, first and foremost, it'll probably be the kids. That'll be the thing that they'll hate. But because I think that show is going to be taking place in, it's going to be a completely unique experience with a lot of new things, I can see there being a lot of complaints there. The intelligent Star Wars fans' choice for discussion. I don't even consider myself necessarily that intelligent. I just like to think that as I've gotten older, I've got a better insight into people's behaviours, because I've kind of been through it myself. And it was like I was saying back in 2017 after The Last Jedi, I could have gone down that same road. I could have chased the views. I could have said, wow, hating on this really has paid off. That's the most money I've ever made. The most subscribers I've ever got, the most views I've ever got, and I want to carry on with that. And I could have done. And this was before, that kind of toxic element of the community existed, But I didn't, because that's not what I'm here for. And yeah, has my other channel kind of stuttered and stagnated since? Yeah, but that's fine. I've never really been here to sort of be a million plus subscriber channel. I'm just here to have a bit of fun. And, as you see, often, I always say that, being a full-time YouTuber, I don't know if I could cope with the stress of it, the stress of not knowing where the views are going to come from, where the money's going to come from. You know, there's a lot to be said for working 9 to 5 that is stressful, but at the end of the day, I'm thankful for a stable paycheck. You know, at least I know what I'm getting paid, and I can depend on that. You know, and I still get to do this, which is a lot of fun, which I really enjoy. And especially, I'll say one thing: this channel has really reinvigorated my love for content making, because I'm able to focus on something that I actually really, really enjoy. Like, doing reactions was fun. Watching all those shows I might never have watched before was fun, but it wasn't always rewarding. And it didn't always feel the most engaging. You know, and as I say, I think the reaction community is dipping. But here, making Star Wars content and trying to make positive, or at least objective, Star Wars content, and seeing, you know, the rewards for that. Because again, my average views on this channel are huge. Like, the views per video, average views per video, are really high in comparison to the other channel that I had. And again, not that it matters to me so much, but it is nice to obviously see, you know, people engaging. You know, even now we've got 19 viewers, and that's amazing that, you know, 19 people are just here to watch me talk about the Acolyte and other stuff, and, you know, whatever else, and just enjoy kind of Star Wars together. And that's what I'm hoping this will be. I know that in this kind of pre-watch party, we've talked a lot about, you know, the current state of the community. We've touched on elements of the episode. I'm hoping that next week and the weeks to follow, when we do have these pre-watch parties again, that I'll be able to focus more on the show and the episodes and the story. But I feel like, you know, there's been a lot go on this week, and I'm wondering, what is the next controversy going to be after tonight? Because there's no doubt going to be something else that the community is going to be up in arms about. If it wasn't, you know, just the show existing at first, then it was about, you know, the lesbian space witches. Then it was about Ki-Adi-Mundi. You know, what is it going to be this week? There's going to be something that's going to trip people up. So, what about when Coral asked Anicia, what if the Jedi learn how the twins were created? Do you think that implies Sith were involved from the beginning? I don't think it implies the Sith were involved, but I think it implies that the dark side might have the ability to create life, and it might even be something that even, you know, it would be something that the Sith would do, because you've got to remember there's different elements of a dark side community. Everything is on a spectrum here. So the Sith, I always think of the Sith as like the scale end of the dark side spectrum. Like, they are as far down that dark path as you can get. These witches, like the witches of Dathomir, they might be halfway between neutral and dark. You know, they utilize the dark side much more, but they're not necessarily outright evil. And so, you know, I wonder if this coven, maybe they've used an ability that would be considered very, very dark, and that's why, you know, they don't want anyone finding out, because by their standards, it was taboo, you know, but not necessarily something that they wouldn't know about, because they are already on the dark side of things, you know, but they're not evil. You know, again, I think that I like the idea that you can now start to mix and match, you know, the Force itself. You know, you don't have to necessarily be evil to utilize the dark side. We see cultures that might mix and match between both. Likewise, you might use the light side to do evil. Who knows? So we'll see. Funny thing, I've never been a fan of his views. Would just say not aligned with mine. Yes. I think you look at I always say, look at the people who they want to emulate and who they follow, and that will give you an insight into who they are. And if anyone follows Andrew Tate, I already know that they are toxic and someone that I would not align with. Because, you know, that's just completely... I like how Andrew Tate has come completely out of his shell in recent weeks. Big fan of group reaction channels, Blind Wave Normies, sort of stupid. Yes, group reactions have always been more attractive to me, and I think to the public in general, because you get that, you know, wider spectrum of opinions, wider spectrum of reactions. People bounce off each other. I love watching Blind Wave because you've got different levels of fan. You know, Eric is extremely knowledgeable, but also loves everything. and he is the one who will cry at the really emotional points, and everyone else in that group, they've got varying degrees of, knowledge, and they all react differently. And that's what's great, because they bounce off each other, and those hour-long discussions they have afterwards, it's great because you get that perspective, and, you get to almost witness what it's like to see that conversation going on, between friends that, I can't have at that point because it's just me, and, it's the middle of the night. So, but, yes, feeling much better. I'm glad you have this trait known as discipline. It's what the Jedi have, and it's easy and tempting to stay overweight or start hating, but you do things not because it's easy, because it's right. Yeah, and that's the thing. And there are times when I'm like, you know what? What's the point? I have those moments where it's like, you know what? The human race is doomed. Why do I do any of this? But then, you wake up the next day and it's not so bad. How I define it is like the D&D view. As far as you're good and evil, you have various levels. Yes. Headland said that the Coven is benevolent version of the Night Sisters. So yeah, they are kind of just wanting to stay to themselves, not hurt anyone. But likewise, I don't see them as being the type of people who would go out and do good. They're not heroes, but they're also not bad guys. They just want to exist, like most people. So yeah, I want to try and wrap things up here, because we've obviously got 10 minutes to the episode. So get predictions in. Let me know, what do we think is going to happen in this episode? Fights. Are we expecting, firstly, this episode to actually be the fight and not a flashback? Who's living? Who's dying? Do we get the reveal? What do we think is going to happen? I personally think this is going to be, we're going to pick up straight away with the fight. Although it might throw us off, there might be a small flashback to begin with, just to kind of throw us out. I feel like the episode is going to be, I'm going to put it down at 36 minutes without adverts. If we add adverts in, I'll go 44 minutes. I think that we won't get the reveal of the Acolyte. I think the end shot will be maybe his helmet coming off, or them teasing a reveal. And again, that'll be another cliffhanger to the next episode. I think Yord and Jackie, bye-bye. As much as it pains me to say it, I think they're goners. Can't think of much else, really, because again, it's still quite short, but I think the Moths are going to get involved. I think those Moths are going to show up, because it's nighttime, lots of lightsabers, they're going to come, and they are going to sneak in and distract. Ki-Adi-Mundi will be stabbed by a lightsaber, yes. And how do we know it's not his evil twin brother? And they name the same. We don't know about cultures that, they might name twins the exact same. Or that could be his dad, Ki-Adi-Mundi Sr. No one said that, if he's not been born yet, then there's no reason for him to be Ki-Adi-Mundi Sr. He's just Ki-Adi-Mundi. And then when Ki-Adi-Mundi Jr. gets born, he becomes Ki-Adi-Mundi Sr. Did no one think about that? I didn't see any of those theories. I think that's his dad. It's problem solved. There we go. Continuity and canon has been saved. That's ridiculous. Why do I think about that at the last minute? That'd be a great video to, make a really jokey topic on. Like, Ki-Adi-Mundi Sr., Kalnaka survives and is actually revealed to be a drag queen Sith. I could see that. I actually could. Fabulous. Fabulous Kalnaka. What would Kalnaka's drag name be? No worries, RM4. Dad with the same name. Yeah. Right, well, I will sign off because we got 5 minutes. I want to go make a cup of tea, get set up for the reaction, which should be out in a few hours. I hope everyone enjoys it. If you haven't, subscribe. Give the channel a like. We'll be back next week with the pre-watch party for episode 6. There'll probably be another video some week, sometime in the week, depending on what we need to talk about, because we just don't know. But again, I appreciate everyone showing up. It's been a lot of fun. And we'll be back next week. If we want to start this earlier and have a bit of a longer conversation, I'm all for that. I just wanted to kind of test out the waters and see what it was like this time around. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the episode, folks.